Soundbars can cost thousands, but I want to find out if you need a blockbuster budget for cinematic sound. So today's test is less Hollywood hills, more Mendip hills, as I'm heading to the dinkiest cinema in Somerset to try out some soundbars with tiny price tags. This is the bijou box office of the Roxy, a 33-seat cinema which, believe it or not, is in the front room of husband and wife team Bash and Jem's house. They sell the popcorn, flog the tickets, and quite often make up the audience too, so they're the perfect pair to help me test 3 soundbars. First up is our cheapest offering from LG. A 2.1-channel soundbar with Bluetooth connectivity, all for a ticket price of under £150. Our next is from Samsung, a 3.0-channel soundbar with adaptive sound tech for scene optimization. And lastly, the most expensive on test is from Yamaha, with Alexa built in and virtual surround sound, but it still comes in at under 250 quid. But which is best? Let's get on with Test 1, Aesthetics. Now, the aesthetics of soundbars are quite a difficult subject, really, because they're sitting in pride of place in front of your telly, but at the same time, you don't want them to be too distracting. And first up, it's the cheapest and narrowest soundbar, the LG. What do you think of it?
I think it looks pretty sleek. I like the fabric on the outside. Which is made from recycled bottles, they're keen to point out.
Well, that's got to be quite good, hasn't it? I mean, as long as it's sort of got eco-credentials on the inside as well as on the outside.
Apparently there's some more recyclable bits inside. They're not everything.
It looks quite short as well, so it might slot in quite easily. The buttons seem a little bit low contrast here. I can't quite see what they're supposed to be saying.
They're a bit too subtle, perhaps. Next up, our mid-range option. This is a Samsung covered in this sort of grey cloth. What do we think?
It looks like a tweed suit.
Oh, right.
Well, I quite like the shape of it. It's sort of a bit more organic, and you can at least see the buttons on this one.
Last up for scrutiny is the Yamaha. It's the most expensive on test, but do its looks match its price tag?
It looks like the stealth version. It's very sleek and black.
It's the widest of the 3 and the flattest.
One point I'd make is that the black covering really shows up dust.
Not a clean sweep for the Yamaha, then, but it does come with a unique trick up its sleeve.
Alexa, add popcorn to the shopping list.
I've put popcorn on your shopping list.
Hooray!
And if you want to do a command during a movie, it'll automatically lower the movie sound while you're giving the command.
Oh, I hate people who talk during the movie.
Good point. And with that, our aesthetics test is done. Which soundbar will get the all-important critical acclaim?
I think I quite like the tweedy one, which is the Samsung.
Yep, I like the vintage look.
Ah, vintage and dust-resistant.
Dust-resistant's important.
The mid-range Samsung takes the gong for best-looking soundbar. But how will it fare in Test 2? Vocal clarity. To test this, we're recording our own old-fashioned newsreel. Stand by. A period review of the cinema voiced by yours truly.
Camera's rolling.
And action.
This is a tale that goes from cellar to celluloid. Yes, I think that'll do nicely. First in line to test speech quality with our talkie is again the cheapest option, the jolly old LG. Has the pleasure of presenting to you a film record of a jewel in the crown of British cinematic history. The LG boasts something called AI Sound Pro mode, which they claim adapts the sound automatically based on the type of content you're watching. But does it work?
I think the sound clarity is very clear.
The first performances were projected onto nothing but an old bedsheet.
The sound's quite bassy, isn't it? And your voice has got a lot of bass in it.
I mean, the bassiness could be because it has a dedicated subwoofer in there, as well as 2 other speakers at the sides.
Oh, so that's actually quite a lot for the money. That's pretty good.
So there we have it. A tiny venue with a big heart. An impressive start from our budget contender, then. How would the winner from Test 1, the Samsung, compare? Like the LG, it has an AI mode which optimizes the sound to the content. You've got to select it first.
Adaptive sound.
Great. Unlike the LG, it has no inbuilt subwoofer, but it does have a centrally mounted speaker designed to help with dialogue.
I love coming here. It's always a real sense of occasion.
Don't you think it sounds quite muddy?
Probably the vocals aren't quite so clear, quite so punchy in terms of getting through.
Well, I wonder if the AI mode is just confusing things. Maybe it's being too clever for its own good.
Ah, it seems the Samsung has very much bombed at this box office. Will the Yamaha, with no less than 2 built-in subwoofers and a clear voice mode, prove stiffer competition for the LG?
Well, it's better than the races.
With a mixed programme of talkies chosen by the committee, there's something for everyone.
There seems to be quite a lot of dynamic range, but the richness in our voices doesn't seem to be coming through as much as it has done on the other ones.
I think it sounds quite tinny.
Yeah, I think it sounds really rather artificial. I just wonder if both could be down to the clear voice, which is boosting frequencies in the voice and making it sound really odd.
I think for the money that you'd pay for this one, I'd expect a little bit more. For me, I like number 1.
So, the cheapest soundbar wins our vocal clarity test. It's time for the final and arguably most important test for our budget bars. While none are credited with true surround sound, they do claim to offer a cinematic experience. But can they? To find out, we're going to watch the same clip from a booming Hollywood blockbuster on each one. And first up again is the LG, with a claimed 100 watts of power.
I think you can definitely tell that it's coming from that little box down there.
It promises a lot of surroundy cinematic experience, and it's not delivering that, but it's not an awful sound experience.
Yeah, I'd agree. A decent start for the LG, then. Can the Samsung, packed with 5 speakers, do just as well? So unlike the LG, the Samsung at this slightly higher price point has virtual surround sound technology built in. DTS Virtual X is a sound processing technology that essentially tricks your ears into thinking they're listening to surround sound using subtle tweaks and delays.
It's a lot better, isn't it? I think you do feel the difference there. It's more immersive. There's a greater range. The basses feel a bit richer and punchier.
It feels like you're in a real cinema.
I mean, that's interesting because it's the one without the built-in subwoofer.
Well, it's certainly sounding good.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe a built-in subwoofer is a bit of a gimmick at this sort of price point.
Finally, it's the turn of the Yamaha. The big hitter of our budget soundbars has both an inbuilt subwoofer and DTS Virtual X.
I think I'm less impressed by this one. There are certain sounds that come through really loudly, like the bass, but unnaturally so.
I think that tinniness you mentioned before on the speech test seems to come through here as well. It's a sort of an artificially processed thinness.
We're not blown away by this one, are we?
No, we're not. It seems the Yamaha, despite its price, walks away with the golden raspberry when it comes to cinematic performance. But which soundbar gets the Golden Globe?
Well, it's got to be the Samsung, hasn't it?
Yes, I think on balance, if you've got a TV with poor sound, the Samsung is the one out of these 3 that'll give you the best improvement.
OK, thank you, John.